Yeah. All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the Virtual Graphic Novel Club. My name is Erica Ware and I'm here with
Roland Whalemaker.
and we're going to be talking about Marvel's King Namor, the Submariner here, King of Atlantis for Marvel. So we're going to jump right into him because I know the $1 billion question is who came first, him or Aquaman? Prince Namor, the Submariner, he is half Atlantean, half human. He is also one of the earliest mutants introduced into Marvel. Namor Mackenzie came from the imagination of Bill Everett and premiered in the very first issue of Marvel Comics in October 1939. So Namor is actually before Aquaman, which Aquaman was introduced in 1940. So yeah, actually 1941. So DC copied Marvel this time. He made his debut earlier in 1939 in a one of the early Marvel comics that was like he was introduced, but he wasn't the main character. But he was Marvel's very first superhero under Marvel Comics. Being half Atlantean and half human, he is the son of a human father who was an explorer, Leonard Mackenzie. Mackenzie was using explosives in the South Pole, and it caused damage to Atlantis. And so that gained the attention of the Atlantis princess Finn, who snuck aboard his vessel to investigate the enemy. But what happened? They ended up friends, and then they ended up eventually falling in love and getting married. And so soon after, though, they were separated, and she gave birth to Namor, who was half, of course, half human, half Atlantean. But his flesh, instead of being blue, because Atlanteans are blue, his flesh, as you can see, is like human flesh. His flesh looked more like his father. So he stood out like a sore thumb in Atlantis. In his youth, this led to some reckless behavior by him because he saw that the human world was they were transgressions against his Atlantean people. So all the things that the humans were doing, blowing up stuff, trashing the oceans, leaking stuff into the oceans, dumping into the oceans, things like that. He took that as a slight, and so he led all these different destructive behavior against human beings. But after a lot of those battles, I don't really know how old he is. It didn't really say how old he was, but somewhere around the World War II, he has he and the original Human Torch, who was an android, if I am not mistaken. Right. The original Human Torch, he and the original Human Torch get into a battle, and it's a massive military battle. And Atlantis, he wanted the human world to know that Atlantis was not someone to play with. And I think he destroyed the original Human Torch in the process of doing that. Because the next time he comes along is World War II. And during World War II, your enemy is my enemy. He sided with the Allies because he saw that the Axis if the Axis came to power, it wouldn't have been good for the Atlanteans. And so he decided to join the fight during World War II, and he comes to the surface world for the first time to fight for human beings. He joined the Invaders, which we'll get into a little bit later, who it consisted of, again, the original. So he and the original Torch come back together. who is why was the original Torch android, or is that what
He was it was something that scientists was working on.
Oh, kind of like the
I
tornado.
can't remember exactly, but somehow or another, his internal circuitry went awry, and that's why he was on fire all the time. But at the same time, remember, he was the analog to the DC's Red Tornado.
Red Tornado, yeah, because I was like, he sounds like Tornado, Red Tornado to me. But yeah, wow, I didn't realize they went that far back, but makes sense. So that team of the invaders included Human Torch, the original, Toro, problematic, Captain America, and Bucky Barnes. Okay. And among some other heroes that helped fight against the Axis, he also fought with another team called the All Winner Squad after the war, but his turbulent relationship with humanity was far from settled. Following his adventures during World War II, Namor's modern day stories really begin when a treacherous telepath named Paul Destin caused earthquakes in Atlantis and erased Namor's memory with the serpent crown. And so Namor was amnesiac for years afterwards. Then you fast forward to the 60s and he's introduced to the Fantastic Four. So all this time, Namor has not only lost his memory, but he's living amongst human beings. Like he's no longer in Atlantis. And he runs into, with his memory still lost, he runs into the Bowery district of Manhattan, and Johnny Storm, the second Human Torch, who is a human being, stumbled upon Namor and returned him to the Atlantic, restoring his memory. However, when Namor got his memory back, he was enraged to learn that undersea testing by the Americans, bomb testing basically, had destroyed his original site of his homeland, and he swore vengeance against the surface world yet again. And he attacked it with a huge sea creature called Giganto. So Namor was reunited with his Atlanteans, but Namor still declared war against the human world. This is when he becomes a foe to the Fantastic Four. He's one of their nemesis, but as we're going to learn as we go through some of Namor's history and teammates, he's not a good character and he's not a bad character. He's just a guy who he's a smart guy. He's a king, but he's first and foremost for Atlantis, and his ties to the human world are complicated. His name stands for Avenging Sun. So when his mother named him, she named him Avenging Sun. His powers include telepathy. He can communicate with sea life, sort of like Aquaman, but and he can communicate with his subjects of Atlantis. But he can fly with wings. He's a mutant, so those wings that are on his ankles give him the ability to fly for indefinite periods of time. And it also makes him super fast in the water. He can, underwater, increases his strength and by extreme degrees. So he's actually stronger in the water than he is outside of the water. He can see sea life. He has increased longevity of life. So his lifespan compared to a human, he doesn't age, basically. Looks just the same as he did hundreds of years ago when he was born, or like when he was a teen. So that's why we don't really know how old he is, because he doesn't age like humans. And it doesn't seem like since World War II to now, he's aged any at all. Like,
actually, he's regressed.
Yeah, he looks well. Younger. Yeah, now I think they're rebooting his story again.
Say, I thought that on the artist.
Yeah. He had the wings on his ankles. He's quite fast, and he has endurance. He's intelligent, extremely intelligent, and his intuition is exceptional. And he is king, and he's also businessman. He's an all-around jack of all trades.
I'm going to say something. As far as Namor is concerned, like within the Marvel universe, we have these things like where some people are mutants, and some may be alien, or some may be of other races. Well, when we're looking at Namor, we have to look at the fact that he's half human, half another humanoid of another humanoid race. But then at the same time, he's a mutant to both of those races. And the only thing that, because of his powers to control ocean life and everything, I think that's kind of endemic to him being Atlantean. Period. But the wings, wings on the ankle, they say that is what makes him the mutant. And that would make him a mutant twice over, because now he's an Atlantean mutant as well as a human mutant.
And can't forget first Marvel character. So in a sense, he's the first mutant before X-Men. Like,
I want to backtrack that question that you asked about the original Human Torch. The original Human Torch, he was created by a scientist, but when he went to basically, I guess, show him off to the public, his whatever the materials were that he created him with, when he brought him outside of the lab, and he was exposed to like full-fledged oxygen, like in the atmosphere, he burst into flames. So what they ended up trying to do, they tried to basically sequester him away in a concrete casket, but he was able to escape that. And he was sentient. He had gained sentience, so he didn't want to be locked up. But he did understand that his flames were dangerous and destroying things. But he learned how to control them.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to jump into some of his allies here.
All right. So the first set of allies we have, Dorma and Marina. Now, these two women are very special to Namor in that they are the loves of his life. Dorma being his first and greatest love. She was a member of Atlantean royalty when he lost his people and joined the surface world as an amnesiac. Even though she loved him, she had no choice but to promise herself to the warlord Crane in his absence. But when the Submariner returned to claim the throne of Atlantis, she rejoiced and declared her undying love for him, spurning and incensed Crane in the process. Basically, they were destined to be married, but subterfuge by outside influences eventually lead to her death. And basically this devastates Namor, and he vows revenge against those responsible ever since. And that was basically a family.
We'll get into those people later.
Right. All right. The next love of his life would have been Marina, who basically is an aquatic alien and a member of the Canadian super team Alpha Flight. Now, her adoptive father informed his government that he had a superhuman daughter, and she was inducted into the training program Gamma Flight back before she met Namor. She proved herself and quickly rose through the ranks, and once she was kidnapped from Alpha Flight by the Master of the World. The Master was determined to destroy her as he was an innocent victim transformed by the alien Plodex. So while Marina was one of the last surviving Plodex on Earth, Marina was rescued by Alpha Flight and Namor the Submariner, and in doing so, freed the Master from his connection to Plodex technology. She was basically devastated by the savagery that she showed towards Namor and her allies, that she made Namor think that she died in an explosion that killed the Master. And from that point on, she led a solitary life in the ocean. After she overcomes her savage tendencies, she returns to Atlantis and marries Namor. She becomes queen of the new undersea kingdom of Beluvia. And when that city-state failed and the Submariner returned to the surface world as an outcast, Marina left with him. At this time, this is when Namor basically accepts membership into the Avengers, and Marina becomes an associate of the team. Unaware that she was pregnant, her condition triggered a transformation that basically this aquatic alien went through a change that turned her into a large savage sea creature resembling the mythical Leviathan. So basically, again, Namor is faced with the loss of his love, but this time he is the one that has to slay her.
Yeah.
And he actually never forgives himself for this deed. So in the Marvel comics, this is something that lingers over his head.
Yeah, and the cool thing about both of these women, they were early on in his backstory of his life, because most of them are like between, I think, Dorma is like in the 1950s, Marina is in the 1960s, and then sort of after that, you have Sue Storm, but that's just an infatuation. He never marries again. He never, any relationship he has that's long term after Marina, after he had to kill her, is literally.
I'm not saying this because he's from the sea, but I think he was quite salty.
Yeah, he was. He was very salty. But yeah, he never remarries again. These are the they're linked together because these were his two wives. Like these were the only two wives he had. And then we have Nomura and say it again for me, Namorita. And again, I'm gonna say this about early comics. I'm always gonna say this when it comes to the originality of these names. It just they never go too far. It's always like, oh, what should we name her? You know what? The female version of Namor. Okay, but we have Nomura and Namorita, who Nomura is actually the opposite of Namor. She is the adult cousin of Namor, but her father is Atlantean and her mother is a human surface woman. And I just dropped my phone. Her nickname, her name is Aquaria Neptunia, but she was nicknamed Nomura in honor of her cousin Namor. In her youth, she was moved to the northern capital of Atlantis and became playmates with Namor. After a few years, her and her father relocated to the northern colony and were absent when Atlantis was increasingly drawn into the surface activities. Namora's skin, which formerly was an Atlantean blue, faded to a Caucasian tone, and then her father revealed to her that she was half human. She did not know who her mother was. Her and her father, shortly after that, and this is around 1947, this is how old her story is, went back to Antarctic Atlantis. There, some surface criminals led by Stoop Richards, called the Brockton Gang, invaded Atlantis in search of treasure, killing Namor's father. Namor and Nomura took vengeance on Richards and his underlings. And then from that point on, she kind of just followed Namor because on his adventures, really fighting by his side and fighting against basically their family in Atlantis and other surface criminals. She married an Atlantean named Talon, and they joined an adventure team. They called themselves the Monster Hunters. Her marriage with him became strained, though, due to her hybrid nature, like because she would be on the surface world and she would come back to Atlantis. And she was also unable to bear children. And so due to that, their marriage became strained. But even though genetic cloning and manipulation was illegal in Atlantis, she impregnated herself with a clone of herself so that she could be pregnant and have a child and save her marriage. It was 1940 something, so let's not fault her on that. And so with that clone, and she cloned the child from not only herself, but from other great Atlantean warriors. And she had her daughter, Namorita. But her and her family left Atlantis for the colony of Maritanus. Okay. Soon afterwards, Talon was killed by an atomic bomb test, and Namor took their child to live in Lemuria. Lemuria.
Lemuria. People
Lemuria.
use that. I think that's the old word, man.
Yeah. After several years, she became attracted to Lemuria's prince, Miro, and leading Miro's actual fiance became really upset, and she poisoned. Her name was Lyra, and she poisoned Nomura. And it is believed that she died while Nimorita was still an adolescent. I read though that she may be somewhere out there frozen in Atlantis, like somewhere out in the ocean, frozen in the Atlantic. Yeah, I think they're going to try again with this, trying to reintroduce Namor into the Marvel universe. I mean, not that he's ever far from anywhere, but he disappears for long periods of time. I believe they said she may be somewhere out there. One of the mutants, I don't know if it was Charles, one of them sensed her in the ocean. So they feel like she's not dead. But, it is the comics.
We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. So there on the bottom left of the screen is you have the clone daughter there, Namorita, who, even though cloning was illegal, her mother did it. She was murdered, and Lyra assumed the throne after Nomura was murdered, and Nimorita stayed in her care. So this young girl had to still, the person that she suspected murdered her mother, she had to stay in her care. She was never able to prove that the woman poisoned her mother. In recent years, Lyra had plotted against Namor, and she forced Namorita to lure Namor into a trap. Namor foiled her plans and reunited with his cousin, who he hadn't seen since she was a baby. And he entrusted her welfare to his longtime surface friend, Betty Prentice. Under Prentice's guidance, Namorita went to high school and went to college, and she took on Prentice's last name following her guardian's death. She joined the hero team New Warriors and even fell in love with her teammate Nova, but also around this time, she found out she was a clone, which devastated her. And even though Namor reassured her that she was still Atlantean and part of his family, she underwent a physical transformation into a more primitive and powerful form in Atlantean. Remember I said she's cloned from the Atlantean's greatest. And so she kind of manipulated her genes to be like a early Atlantean warrior, to what they used to look like. She eventually goes back to her normal appearance, but during this time, her and Nova fell apart. And so she later dated Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, even though that relationship also ended. She is now co-ruling Atlantis with Namor and the warrior Andromeda, but it also said she was killed in a massive explosion that was televised when the New Warriors participated in a raid, and she was killed. A whole bunch of school children were killed, and some more heroes from New Warriors were killed in this raid. Yeah, she may pop back up too because it's comics, but we'll see. So that's his family.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next. I really have no words for her. Emma Frost. Emma Frost was born into a wealthy old Boston mercantile family that arrived from England in the 1600s. The second of three daughters, Emma also had an older brother named Christian who had turned to substance abuse as an escape from the drudgery of his life. Unknown to their family or themselves, the three Frost sisters were mutants whose telepathic abilities matured upon reaching puberty. Emma ultimately inherited a good deal of wealth, but most of her large fortune resulted from her professional success. She ascended rapidly to the upper echelon of the business world on the strength of her intelligence, drive, and personal charm, as well as the secret use of her mental powers. Also, at some point, the Dark Beast met Emma and helped her rise to wealth and power. She was a part of the Hellfire Club, a member of the X-Men, where she was a co-leader at times with Cyclops. And over the years, she has dated Namor on and off.
Fun fact.
Yes.
To be a female member of the Hellfire Club, you can only wear lingerie. Hence why Emma Frost's uniform always consists of lingerie. And she seems like she's never has enough clothes on to fight crime or evil.
When your body is hard as diamonds, do you really even
Now, another fun fact about her, she actually acquired that due to a mutant. Her mutant gene is telepathy. She's Jean Grey. She's like the opposite of Jean Grey, actually. No, she's the evil version of Jean Grey because she was evil before she was good.
Remember the three youngsters that are under her care as well, which are
the Hellions.
No, the Stepford Cuckoos.
Yes, the Stepford Cuckoos, who were now they came after the Hellions. She had a group called the Hellions. The Hellfire Club started kind of like what Xavier was doing, adopting children to train in their mutant powers to be powerful, because the Hellfire Club initially was just a bunch of powerful men and a few women at a certain time that came together. What's his name? Sebastian Shaw was a mutant.
Right.
He knew Emma Frost was a mutant. They knew each other as a mutant because she was a telepath.
Right.
What they started doing was sabotaging the Hellfire Club to gain power. And when they gained power, they literally replaced everyone who was on the council with mutants. And it became a mutant club. And then their goal was to use mutant powers to become the most powerful in the world. And they accomplished that. Then they took in the Hellions, and then she took in the three.
Right, the Stepford Cuckoos.
But then they rejected her when one of them died.
Well, in the end, all of them ended up being X-Men.
Including her. Because it was because of the incident with the three siblings that caused her to go for Xavier to reach out to her. Not only because she was a powerful telepath, and he at that time was dying. Dying, we'll use that in quotations. He needed her, and she sort of needed him to continue her school. So they come to a agreement. But again, the scantily clad uniform is now explained.
Right.
And that's why she wears what she wears. I always thought it was strange though. And that diamond, that was a genetic change in her DNA, basically.
I always thought the uniforms were just because of the misogynistic ways
of course
writers.
Of course. I mean, I think she showed up in the 60s.
Right.
So that was when she was first introduced. And the diamond thing came later, but we could do a whole graphic novel club on her, and probably, because she's not good and she's not bad. She's a means she's one of those, whatever it takes to win.
Right.
But mutant first. She's always mutant first, protecting mutants. I like her story in House of M too, like her character. And she and Cyclops have on again, off again relationship too. She was the reason that Cyclops almost left Jean.
Right.
She manipulated him into a telepathic affair because she was his therapist. But I'm just saying, like she was his therapist, and she was basically sleeping with her client. Jump back one. Are you sure?
I got this side.
Okay. All right. Oh, wait. There it is from. Okay. But we'll go ahead and cover them. The Illuminati, which is under team affiliations.
Yeah. So you got it?
Yeah. Just after the Kree Skull War, several of the Earth's greatest minds decided to come together and create a goal to monitor other dimensions, because I believe with the Skrees, they came from outer space to Earth, adopted Earth. They look like Earthlings. They adopted people who were in government, SHIELD, I believe.
Right.
And because they can look like anybody, sound like anybody, what is the thing? There's one thing they can't do. They can't memories.
No,
Things they don't have their memories. They don't get their memories. Yeah, so that's the only way you know that they're not Skrull, is if they can't tell you something that happened to you as a child. But anyway, they had come to Earth, and after that, and almost one taking over Earth. Not Namor. Dr. Strange thought it was a good idea to gather Earth's greatest minds, and to basically, you have Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Professor Xavier, Dr. Strange, and Black Bolt. And they want to pretty much anything other dimensional and extraterrestrial, they are on top of. They're a secret union, so nobody knows about them. What are they like? I mean, their name says it all, the Illuminati, but I can't think of a.
You know, I think in the comics that they basically named them this because in current pop culture and society, the Illuminati is that all-powerful secret society that's controlling things.
Gotcha.
And in the comics, with this Illuminati storyline, basically, well, when they formed the Illuminati, there were some things that several members, I know we're hitting on the Submariner right now, and he did his deal, and the reason why he left the Illuminati, but there were other things like Reed Richards. Basically, the contention was between Reed Richards, Tony Stark, and Professor Xavier.
Yeah.
Because what they felt was if they felt that something was amiss, and they knew, a lot of times they wouldn't even come back to the Illuminati people. They try to solve it immediately and cause a bigger problem. And that's and if you're cool with the comics, you already know that that's kind of how Reed Richards and Iron Man get into trouble anyway.
Yeah. You know? Outside of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, who was absolutely brilliant, but not what the comic Iron Man is. He's charismatic, he's all those things, but when we cover Iron Man, we're probably going to be like, it's a total shocker. Yeah, because isn't Civil War because of him?
Well, it's because of it happening, and then when they approach the heroes, they don't approach all the heroes. They actually approach Iron Man, and he thinks he has the solution. So,
yeah, it's because of him. All right, I don't let you cover this because I don't have notes on him.
I don't either, but I'll tell you this.
We've covered him before in Spider-Man.
Yes. So one of the biggest arch villains of Marvel is actually called, well, I would not say friend. I would say that a respectable ally to the Submariner, and that is Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom. I wanted to call him the Crown Prince, but I will not, because that is not what he is. He is the dictator of the the fictional country of Latveria, which is basically an Eastern European dictatorship. Basically, you know, Dr. Doom is a unparalleled scientist and actually a great statesman, because when he's not being a jerk, take over
things.
He's actually a decent person, and a lot of the heroes
respect him
for that. They don't like him because they know that he's gonna, when the tide changes and he can go for self, that's what he's gonna do.
Oh yeah, we covered him in Wanda too.
Right. So basically, because of the, I guess you can say, not only his superpowers but his intellect.
Yeah.
That's why the Submariner, and the fact that anytime the Submariner has gone against Dr. Doom, it has been their battles end in a standstill.
Yeah.
Where both of them have had to walk away.
Yeah.
So that respect comes grudgingly, but it's there. As you can see, I put a little picture down there. There was a joke in one of the comics that how much of best buds that they had become, in the fact that Dr. Doom made Namor pause for him to start a painting. He had to sit there for the long, but that was quite hilarious. And people, that's Dr. Doom, who is also the arch nemesis of Fantastic Four.
So, and Namor has been a nemesis to the Fantastic Four and a partner to them also. So, again, not a good guy, not a bad guy. Just he's everything Atlantis. All right, we have Poseidon here. He, or AKA also known as Neptune, depending on if you are looking at Greek or Roman mythology. But at the end of the day, he's a god. He's a god. His father was a Titan. Kronos, yes. Kronos was his daddy. And his mother is Rhea. Neptune, and we covered this when we covered the Eternals. Again, there are gods in Marvel's universe. It's just that sometimes those gods and the Eternals, they kind of sort of, if they think that this is you, that's fine. It's me, but that's fine. Because the gods in Marvel became tired of humans. They got tired of humans and their human ways, and basically just kind of stayed up on Mount Olympus after this. They just kind of, they took themselves out of they're still around, but they took themselves out of activity amongst the humankind. They didn't interfere anymore, basically, except for Poseidon. He is the younger brother of Zeus. After they slayed their father, Zeus, and one more. Who was the other one? What was the third brother that helped? Pluto. Or Hades. Yeah. After they slayed their father, freed their other siblings from the prison into the dark world known as Hades, Zeus became ruler of Olympus, and Poseidon became dominion of the seas. Pluto became dominion of the underworld, aka Hades. And Poseidon was given, when he was given dominion over the seas, Demeter was assigned to watch over the land, and Vesta was designed to watch over the people. All the rest of those guys, except for Poseidon, basically bailed on their jobs, their job assignments. Poseidon still actively watches over the Atlantean people, though. He protects the Atlantean people, and he still will jump into a fight. They fought against the demonic Japanese god of the underworld known as Mikabishi, and they flooded his underworld, defeating him. So he and Namor have teamed up, but he still actively watches over the Atlanteans, and pretty cool guy. But I guess they're Greek and Roman, but then we're not even going to get into the Thor of the Viking.
Well, that's Norse.
That's the Norse gods, yeah.
World.
But they are gods. Thor is a god,
right.
All right, so we're going to continue on to his enemies. And when we say enemies, we could mean friends at times because, you know, you never know.
Like that.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
All right, so I'm not going to call these people enemies. We'll call them frenemies.
Exactly.
Right? The Fantastic Four, which were some of the earliest teams to count Namor as both a foe and an ally. While Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, helped basically restore Namor's memories, the rage that was brought back with those memories at the seeming destruction of the Atlantean race, it leads Namor to launch an invasion of the whole surface world. Basically, at this point in time, because they're the only ones that know what is going on, the Fantastic Four are the only ones that can stop him. Later in life, I guess, basically, after Namor comes to terms with the fact that he's going to be working with these surface dwellers, he basically gets infatuated with Sue Storm, and because of this, becomes an ally of the team because he doesn't want to see any harm come to her.
To her.
To her, right.
To her.
To her. He
could care less about the rest of
it. He has thrown pot shots and talked real bad about the other members.
Like
even her husband.
Yeah, if you die.
Like he's not even worried.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, he completely ignores the fact that she's married.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But because of this friendship, he becomes an ally to the team and even becomes a member of the team on a few occasions.
Yeah, I think a few occasions where Richard Reed was stuck in space somewhere and he comes and helps Sue out. Again, Sue. And in the process of helping Sue becomes a team member.
Right.
Yeah. This is the funniest thing to me because, again, remember, he is the first Marvel comic book hero.
Right.
But he skips in and out of Marvel.
Right.
Like, they stop publishing him for a little while, then they bring him back up. But when Stan Lee comes along, he brings him back into Marvel by bringing him back through the Fantastic Four.
Right.
Instead of being like, oh, we're just going to reintroduce Namor. Namor, from this point on, kind of just pops up in other people's books. Spider-Man, the Avengers, all of them. Like, and his own. Like, they started republishing his own. But yeah. All right. We have Otoma, who is a fellow Atlantean. He is one of these, he's actually from the tribe of Homo Hermanus, a civilization that lives as nomadic barbarians. For some reason, he was given endowed strength and far surpassing that of his people. When he becomes an adult, he's almost an adult, he learns of this prophecy of the lost Atlantean chronicles, of a conqueror who will come and take the empire of Atlantis by force. Believing that he is that conqueror, Atium then launches into numerous attacks of the city and the city of Atlantis, and Namor, who is king at the time, is unable to, Namor decides to fight him, basically, and he's unable to best Namor in personal combat, and that means that he has to take pop shots at Namor after this. So what he does is he can never have lasting victory, so he takes the one thing that Namor loves the most at the time, and he decides he's the one who, due to his actions, Lady Dorma is killed due to his actions. So this is why he and Namor will never be friends, because he killed the love of his life. Because he couldn't kill Namor, he kills his wife.
All right, next up on the list, Green Goblin. More of a Spider-Man villain, but Norman Osborn was raised by an abusive and alcoholic father who lost the family fortune. This fueled him to become a self-made man, and as he grew up to be a ruthless industrialist and co-owner of Osborn Industries, Osborn. Yeah, that's what they call
Oscorp.
it Oscorp.
Yeah, a lot of
Right.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, he gained had a business partner named Professor Mendel Strom, who was jailed for embezzling funds. So basically, Osborne gains full control of Oscorp at this time. When he discovers Strom's notes for a strength-enhancing serum, he tests the serum on himself, but the concoction explodes in his face, leaving him hospitalized for weeks. But when he emerges smarter and possessing superhuman strength. But this is at the cost of his sanity and moral inhibitions, signaling the beginning of the Goblin identity. He is an enemy of the Submariner due to being an enemy of the Avengers and Fantastic Four. He has betrayed the Avengers with the Dark Avengers and is a member of Namor's team, the Cabal. Now, basically, that's kind of like a, I want to say it's kind of like a double. It's brief, but it was a double cross because in that storyline with the Dark Avengers, where Norman Osborn basically takes control of the Avengers, Namor joins. But if you know Namor's history, he's already kind of been a part of the regular Avengers, and the Defenders and the Invaders. So a chance to be a part of this. Osborn's Avengers. It seemed, I almost want to say it seemed like he was keeping tabs on the situation because in the end, he ends up crossing them. But as we know with Namor, it all comes back to whether it's good for Atlantis or not.
Yeah. When I was doing the research for Osborn, Goblin, it was like because after some battle he has with Spider-Man, he had kidnapped Mary Jane and killed. She was pregnant at the time. Somehow, some way, in that kidnapping, she loses the baby. They lock him up. They finally catch him and lock him up. But supposedly, while he's locked up for so many years, he gets therapy, and he's supposed to be this better person. To the point where they break him out of, Spider-Man has to come back and break him out of prison because they need him, because by this time you have the second invasion of the Skrulls coming. They need Osborn's brain, giving him the Avenger initiative. Like he becomes the leader of, not only because Nick Fury, I don't know what happened to Nick Fury, they didn't mention it.
That Dark Avengers was him like having power, because remember
this was before he even turned it into the Dark Avengers. What he does is, it's after Civil War, in between that second Skrull invasion that happens in the comics.
They shut down S.H.I.E.L.D.
They gave it, they gave temporary control to Osborn of S.H.I.E.L.D. He starts recruiting, but he's recruiting people like Hood. He's recruiting all these.
But he changed the name of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, he did.
And that right there is a big turning point in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember, is it AIM?
It could be AIM. That sounds really familiar.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, but so he does that, and Submariner, I don't think he ever trusted Harry Osborn, but he respected Harry Osborn because of his brain. But I think he was put into when he recruits him, he's like, yeah, I'll be a part of your Avengers. But he's also the one that puts him back in his place. Like when he creates Dark Avengers and they have to disband, like Submariner is the one who starts recruiting old members of the Avengers.
And the name of that storyline is it starts with the aftermath of
Secret Invasion.
Yeah. But it's called The Dark Reign.
Okay.
2008 to 2000.
Yeah. I knew it was after, like, Civil War was mid-2000s, and I knew it was this particular, when I read it, I was like, oh, that sounds like it's in between Secret Invasion and Civil War, because Captain America is killed at the end of Civil War. So
the name of the group that he starts is the Thunderbolts.
Oh, okay.
So he's the group of reformed
villains. Yeah.
Started because remember, General Ross was over the Thunderbolts at
one point. Yeah.
And then he became the Red Hulk. So
yeah, he went off the rails.
pretty much. I'm glad he came back.
Yeah. All right. We have Hood. I just mentioned Hood. He was one of the reformed villains that Osborn recruited to the Dark Avengers. But he was a petty thief. He lives in New York because as a kid, he saw Daredevil and some other superheroes that inspired him, but it inspired him not to be good, but to actually grow up to be a thief. He and his cousin John King did petty crimes together. You know, they would steal from the local gangsters and things like that. His father died. He had to start taking care of his mother, who ended up in a psychiatric hospital. He needed money not only to support his mother in her hospital stay, but he needed money to support his then pregnant girlfriend. And so his cousin tells him about this big job that he could do that, you know, could bring him a lot of money. So they show up to a warehouse where they were going to do a burglary job, but they open the doors and it's empty. That empty warehouse, though, they see mystical markings and candles all around. So there was some sort of ritual going on at that time that they did not know about. They are attacked by a demon called Nasanti, but Robin shoots that demon in the head, thinking he kills the demon. He takes the cloak of the demon and the boots of the demon because he thought that they could get some sort of value on the street. He could get something for all his effort that night, some sort of money. But what he finds out later is that cloak gives him the power of invincibility, and he starts his reign as using the cloak to perform jobs, more petty theft jobs. And not only does he do petty theft, he decides to get big and steal from one of the local gangsters in the community called, his nickname was Goblin. He steals a boatload of uncut diamonds from this guy. Well, Gollum is not your regular gangster, and he hunts. Yes, he uses not only him, who is his superpower, but he's superpowered, but his minions are also superpowered. So he sicks them on Red Hood. I mean, not Red Hood. Well, I'm in DC right now. He sticks them on Hood, and they hunt him down to the point where he's like, he takes those who are hunting him down, he catches one of them, dresses her up as himself. Oh, yeah. They think that they killed him, so he is presumed dead. He is not dead, and but from that, he's like, okay, look, this is not really my cup of tea. I'm a petty thief. I don't want this type of heat on me. Here are your diamonds back. So he goes to Gollum in good faith and says, here are your diamonds back. He's still presumed dead because the person he left in that cloak is presumed to be him. He's like, I don't want any more trouble. He basically gets a new start at his life at that point, because Gollum is like, you gave me back my diamonds. Off, you know, like, and he was like, you have to promise you're not going to come after me anymore. Right. And Gollum's like, cool, you gave me back my stuff. All right. I don't want any more heat on me than you do. So he basically gets a new start, and he vows at that point and forth to never steal again. That only lasts for so long, but currently in the story, his story, he's sort of straight and narrow, but he is a part of Dark Avengers. So he's a reformed villain at this point. And he's also a member of the Cabal. So, yeah.
The name of that group that Osborn started, just to jump back. He shut down S.H.I.E.L.D. and started Hammer.
Okay.
You know, and it's an acronym.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Because S.H.I.E.L.D. All right, and we're going to just quickly go through some of his. We've mentioned some of these 10 affiliations already.
Okay. So one of the first groups that Namor has been a part of is the world's mightiest non-team.
Yes.
Okay? So basically, the Defenders, it stands the test of time without structural rules to defend the world against threats both strange and deadly. The seeds of what would become a unique idea in superhero teams were planted in a series of clashes between Doctor Strange, Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, and a clutch of demonic beings known as the Undying Ones. After battling the evil entities on his own on several occasions, Doctor Strange called first upon Namor the Submariner, and then later the Green Gamma-spawned Hulk to aid him in his plight. Neither of the two surly individuals cared to continue their association with the magician, but when another menace subsequently reared its ugly head, Namor and the Hulk teamed again to enlist the cosmic Silver Surfer in their efforts to put it down. When that alliance also fell apart at the mission's end, it took the threat of evil sorcerer Yandroth Megatron's device to once more bring Doctor Strange, Namor, the Hulk, and the Surfer all together to smash both. On that day, the idea of the Defenders took root and began to grow organically. Soon after, the loose affiliation of powerful personas attracted others to ally themselves with it, including the warrior Valkyrie, Hawkeye the Archer, and the criminal-turned-hero Nighthawk. People, I introduce to you the Defenders.
And it is also ever changing, just like the Avengers.
Yeah, and this version of the Defenders is not to be confused with the Marvel Netflix Defenders.
Yeah. Okay.
That is a totally different.
Okay.
Totally different team.
Okay.
But at the same time, whereas the original Defenders were, I guess you could say, international heroes, the current Defenders that are in pop culture now are basically street level.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? As far as it comes to Marvel Universe. So that's why you get the Luke Cage, Power Man, Iron Fist, and the rest of those guys.
Jessica Jones.
Right.
Shang-Chi?
Well, Shang-Chi comes in later, but I think he's more one of the heroes for hire.
Gotcha.
Along with Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
Yeah.
But Daredevil is a part of that.
That's it, Daredevil. That's where we covered them before.
Right.
And Luke Cage. Okay. Yep. And those are the Defenders. We've covered the Illuminati. All right, we got the Invaders. The Invaders were, as I mentioned earlier, World War II. Namor fights alongside Captain America there. Bucky Barnes, who is AKA White Wolf, also known as Winter Soldier, yep. And Human Torch, the original Human Torch there, the android. And what's his name has a different look there. Namor.
Yeah.
He has long hair.
Well, you know what? This is, if you look on these covers right here, the bigger cover is one of the originals.
Yeah, that's the originals. Okay. Yeah.
So this new one, this
was a reprint.
One, this is a reprint. This is I can't remember what year this is from. It's from the 2000s.
Yeah.
But this is a reimagining of them, as you see the this is the Human Torch, but this is the android version.
Yeah, yeah.
You see the Winter Soldier back there behind. And yeah, Namor has long hair, but then you see in the silhouette, giving homage to their original forms.
Yeah. These guys fought against the Axis powers whenever they could, not really taking the place of the soldiers that were on the front lines. They were there to assist the soldiers. So if you could think Captain America First Soldier movie where he's there, but he's there to assist and lead. These guys, that's what they did. They inspired the soldiers, but they were kind of boots on the ground kind of type of guys, but they weren't winning the battles. It was the soldiers. And that was really important at that time when these like Captain America, all these comics were out around World War II. They used to send comics to the front lines to the soldiers to, entertain them. It gets kind of boring sometimes when you're not fighting. And it brought up their morale to see themselves. DC did it. I mean, it was literally the government.
Right.
They were sending the government thousands of comic books.
Different type of national pride.
Yeah, and Marvel did it, and so it was nice to see. Yes, they were supporting the soldiers, but the soldiers were the focus. Yeah, they were the focus, and it was good for morale. So yeah, this was the Invaders.
All right, the next group. During the conflict between the Avengers and the X-Men, your boy Namor sided with the X-Men.
Yeah.
And basically, he did that because the Phoenix Force was making its way back to Earth.
Yeah.
When Iron Man attempted to destroy the Phoenix.
Is this what you were talking about earlier? How he inserts himself into things?
When Iron Man attempted to destroy the Phoenix, because, remember the Avengers had they did have a run-in with Jean Grey.
Yes, they did.
Before the big Avengers X-Men dust-up. So Iron Man attempts to destroy the Phoenix, which we know it probably would have roasted him alive, but it probably skipped over him, and instead of it basically consuming him and making him become the harbinger of the Phoenix Force, it split into 5. Yeah, and it took over several different. I think it was they were all X-Men, because what you ended up having was the
he
Phoenix
was one.
Force. Who was it?
Namor.
Namor
was one of them.
Yeah, Namor was one, but if
all of them were X-Men. Yeah.
If you actually look at it, they were all, the majority of them were X-Men, and those that got brought into it started wearing the X badge as well. Because you're right, at this point in time, just like the story, this is the new storyline when I guess they redid it, because you don't have Wolverine there, you have what's her name? X-23. Yeah. So at this point in time, Namor becomes one of the Phoenix 5, and during this time, this is when he goes mad, and basically he becomes the first person to ever successfully invade Wakanda. Yep. And that is, I can't remember, I don't know what the story, I want to read that storyline because, I want to read that storyline, but they're not telling me. When I did my research, they didn't tell me exactly which story. They just said it fell within a certain year of X-Men books. Oh, okay. So, but I'm pretty sure that there's a storyline associated with it because it spawned the Phoenix 5. Yeah. And I believe it was around that time. Is the dust up between the X-Men and the Avengers? Isn't that when Storm also decides to go back to the X-Men, leaving Wakanda, and that thus the shakeup with her marriage to T'Challa? Yes. Now, as we said before, and this is another, I guess they were able to be in close confinements again. Now he's around Emma Frost again. Of course. At convenience, those two. All right. So now we have the Avengers. We've talked about them. They've come up. He joined the Avengers originally in the 60s at some point in time when he was outcast from the nation that he started in Atlantis. And they kicked him. It failed. They kicked him out. So he joined the Avengers, and I think this was around the time he was married to Nomura. No, not Nomura. Marina. He was married to Marina. I couldn't think of her, the little green one. He was married to her, and he joins their lineup. But of course, we know that the Avengers have fought him on time to time too when he has attacked humanity. Yeah, here or there. So he proves himself to the world when he does team up with the Avengers, and they retake the Avengers Mansion from the Masters of Evil, and they fight the Olympian gods together. He also managed to discover the underwater cocoon containing Jean Grey, once thought to have perished as Phoenix. So Jean comes back yet again. It's the comics. We'll say something. This cover right here, I actually have this book. Oh wow! Now, but I want you to see something. One of the reasons why I put this one up here is because if you look at the Avengers that are shown, you see Hercules.
You get Hercules, Captain America.
Captain America.
Is that Black Bolt?
No. That's going to be Kit Harington's character. That will be from the
Moon Knight?
No, from
I thought he was playing Moon Knight.
No, he plays the Black Knight.
Oh, Black
Knight. Arthurian, King Arthurian legend.
Okay.
Now, that next
is that Maria?
Yeah,
Rambo.
That's Rambo. So right here, you are seeing one of the later incarnations of the Avengers. But if you look at it real close, this might be the incarnation that's set to come in the thing. Although now, the Falcon was not.
No,
he was still the Falcon in this Avengers story. And
I also am looking at that's Maria Rambo. Who is that? Wasp. The upper left corner?
Yeah.
Wasp. Yeah. That's cool because Moon Knight, yes, he's going to be in Eternals. I think he's getting his own movie much later too, right?
Moon Knight, well, he's getting a series or something.
Yes. Disney Plus. I looked that up today because I was looking at upcoming features for them.
And Hercules, who did we say Hercules had a relationship with?
Wolverine.
Wolverine.
Yes.
So Wolverine, they say Wolverine is coming to the MCU as well. So,
also, Rambo is going to be in the Marvels. The Marvels.
Right.
And they're bringing Captain Marvel, her character, which she doesn't have a name yet.
Spectrum?
Well, no. I'm saying when she was in WandaVision, she never, she got her superpowers.
Right, she got her powers,
but they never,
Right.
What is the, she's not with S.H.I.E.L.D., she's with
Sword.
Sword, okay. Her and then Miss Marvel are going to be in a movie next year. So they're just introducing everybody.
Hopefully when they bring that back, that's when they will bring, like they said they weren't going to do, but we're hoping that they bring back from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a couple of those characters.
Oh, okay.
And more than likely, it'll probably be the Quake character, because at the end of the series, you see them flying off into space. And that is the beginning of, and they have also been to the future and come back. So that space sword is like the
everything's
space
space
version of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Gotcha.
All right. So our next and last group is the Cabal. When Namor learned he had a son named Kamar who wished to rule Atlantis, and he had decided to go to war with the United States. Well, he decided that war with the United States was the way to do it. Now, by this time, Namor has been not necessarily a friend to humanity, but being an Avenger and Invader and Defender.
Yeah.
He's not looking too nicely upon this. Okay. So what he knows what's going to end up happening is that when Kamar starts this war, the powers that be are going to respond, and Atlantis will be damaged in some form or fashion. Basically, Kamar started the war. Namor was able to evacuate all of Atlantis in response, and he had Nitro detonate in front of Kamar. This destroyed Atlantis, but it also killed Kamar, ending the threat. What's up? Oh, because Dr. Doom was the only one to help him, Namor formed a new team, and this team was called the Cabal, and it basically had Loki, the Hood, Norman Osborn, and the female version of Loki.
Because you're going to look at that picture and go,
and
not
in
Loki.
the end, you'll see that Namor just brought this group together as an ends to the means, as an ends to a means, because what he ends up doing in the end is rebuilding Atlantis, calling it New Atlantis, and betraying the Cabal, and basically moving his people below the mutant city of Utopia. That's it.
Good old Namor. Not a good guy, not a bad guy, but a very smart guy. All right. So that's all we got for today. You could take a look at some of the character sightings here, works cited that we use. Do your own research. If you guys have any suggestions or questions, you can always put them in the chat or email us at our email address that we have on YouTube. Don't forget, we have Comics Plus. You have access to thousands of digital comics with your library card. So no holes, no waiting list. You can access them online on your tablet, computer, and smartphone. And once you download them, you can have offline access. So sign up today with your library card. If you have a Clayton County library card, you have access. If you don't have a Clayton County library card, you can go ahead and come on in and get one at one of our 7 branches. Join us in 2 weeks as we are going to be covering DC Suicide Squad. Believe that comes out. I know it's Skinny Amanda. You know how much we dislike Skinny Amanda.
Why do I feel like we have done this one before, but now we have to do it again?
No,
it's a whole new group.
No, we've done this before in covering during Black History Month. We covered Amanda Waller. We have never covered them as a team. This is going to be good. August 6th is when the movie comes out, so we will be covering it before the movie comes out.
Okay, cool.
Join us here in 2 weeks. There's the bookmark that link so you can join us live, or you can watch it later. But we will see you on the 27th. Ciao.